Welcome to Angel Share 20. I can't believe I'm even saying that. It's hard to believe this is our 20th update to you guys. But welcome all of you Barrels for Hope members. Welcome, Josh. Welcome, Kim. How are you guys doing tonight?
Great.
Doing great here as well. Glad
Tell
to be
everybody
here.
what you poured, because I'm very jealous of what you're sipping on tonight.
So in the glass here is the Nashville Barrel Company bonus barrel, the 8-year that just released to everybody that opted in today. And we will post the link a little bit later in the stream. Kim and I both have bottles of it. We're going to do some tasting. Also have the 5-year that we picked as a member pick. I have that poured up as well. So that's going to be what I start off with tonight.
And that turned out good. We have a lot of updates for you guys tonight. Kim will probably give us a little update on the year-end event. We'll talk about barrel releases. As you guys know, we're kind of getting towards the end of the year. And like Josh's analogy he always uses, it's like a plane taking off and now we're landing and all these picks are starting to roll in. And I know it can get confusing as far as what's coming in and what you're expected to get. So hopefully a lot of you guys saw on Patreon, I posted all of the membership bottles and all of the bonus bottles that have been released with a status of when they come in and when they ship and all of that kind of thing. So we'll get into all that. We'll talk about all the allocations. The big thing we want to do tonight first is we have a special guest. We have Tom with American Cancer Society who's going to join us tonight. For those of you who were not at the year-end event, Tom was there. Just an awesome guy. My wife and I really enjoyed getting to know him. Kim is going to be at a American Cancer Society gala like next weekend, I think.
Saturday
night. So I'm sure that'll be fun. But they donated a very special bottle to us that we are going to be putting up on Give 270's website. And we'll talk about that. I'll let Kim talk about that too a little bit later, but I don't want to take up too much of Tom's time. So let me bring Tom on here real quick. Hey, Tom, welcome.
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Great to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. Like I was saying, my wife and I really enjoyed getting to know you and your wife at the annual event. And thanks for being part of our first annual event.
Well, Lance, we had a great time. And I think it's just a tremendous thing that Barrels for Hope is doing, not just for ACS, but the other organizations you're supporting as well. It's such a great cause. And I can't think of a better time than getting together and getting to meet new people and drinking bourbon and giving money away to good causes. So it was a fantastic event, and we're just appreciative of the partnership.
Yeah, and I know you and I talked, and my wife and I on the way home were saying that, we didn't really plan to have all of this, all these organizations kind of interwoven and affect everybody like they do. But I know you were saying, and a lot of other people that were there with other organizations were saying that everything we represent affects everybody that was there, which was really pretty cool and a very special night for all of us. So.
Yeah, it was great. And, I think we all have a cancer story, whether it's personal or family member or friend. And I think I mentioned that evening that my mom's been 41 years cancer-free this year from breast cancer, which she was diagnosed with when she was 34. I know Renee has been quite a fighter and so glad to see that she's doing so well. And we just appreciate what you all are doing for us because every day we're out there trying to find a cure.
Yep, absolutely. Well, with that, Tom, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself? You can talk about how you got involved with American Cancer Society and what American Cancer Society is all about.
Sure. Yeah. So my role is the director of philanthropy for the American Cancer Society in Kentucky and Tennessee. So I cover those two states. Having grown up in Tennessee and spent the majority of my adult life in Kentucky, it's a natural fit. With not just it's purposeful and personal, as I like to say. I talked about my mom this Saturday. I know, Kim, you and your husband are going to join us at our Nashville Discovery Ball. And ironically, this Saturday marks 20 years ago that my dad passed from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that's that kind of sneaks up on us this time of year. I lost a a grandfather to pancreatic cancer. Both my in-laws are cancer survivors, so I think we all have a story. And the work I get to do in working with individuals and foundations and other organizations like Barrels for Hope to support such a great cause is very rewarding. So again, we really appreciate the partnership and the boost that you all give us each day, not just financially, but obviously with the stories that we hear from people like Renee and everyone else who's been touched by cancer.
Yeah, I know, I know what American Cancer Society is all about because my wife actually, one of her first jobs out of college was to work with American Cancer Society. And, we didn't know we'd be leaning on them later in life. But, one of the biggest questions we get from our members when we decide who we're going to donate to from year to year is, where exactly does the money go? What exactly is the money doing? Can you kind of tell us, what American Cancer Society does and how they help people in their fight?
Absolutely. So that's probably the biggest question that we get is everybody knows who we are, but not a lot of people know exactly what we do. And so our role as the world's largest cancer fighting organization is to basically walk with someone from the time that they are screened for cancer to the diagnosis to their treatment, and then obviously celebrate their survivorship as well. So while we don't directly treat patients, we provide all what I like to call the tertiary services. We have a 24/7 hotline that people can call at any time to get their questions answered, to talk with medical professionals about what to expect once they are diagnosed and are beginning to progress through treatment. We provide transportation and lodging throughout the country for people that maybe don't have rides to and from treatment, or maybe they have to travel from a rural area to a cancer center to be treated in a major city. We have a Hope Lodge program where they can stay for free while they're being treated. Probably the biggest thing we're known for is research. We've provided $5 billion in cancer research across the country over the last 65 to 70 years. And in Kentucky, obviously, where most of the bourbon is produced, we currently have 10 research grants totaling about $5.5 million in place in Kentucky. And then we do events like the galas that I'm going to attend 2 of those in Tennessee this weekend. I know Kim and her husband are going to come down for the one in Nashville, and all the money raised at those events goes to our programs to help cancer patients and their families navigate this disease. And so every dollar is put to a good cause, and about 90 cents of every dollar we raise goes directly to the mission.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I know you said navigate the disease, and that couldn't be put any better, because I know when Renee got diagnosed with cancer, we just assumed, well, first they told us breast cancer, and I didn't realize that could mean a million different things. I just thought it was just a very specific kind of cancer. And I thought we'd show up and the doctors would tell us what the best course of action was. Turns out, we had to figure out and kind of do a little bit of research ourselves and figure out whether we were going to do chemo or radiation or double mastectomy or all 3. And every doctor we talked to had a little bit different view on what their statistics meant. And so you mentioned about calling a hotline and talking to medical doctors. And I mean, you just can't get enough of that information when you're going through it, because it's just hard to navigate. So as much help as people can get is definitely awesome.
Sure. And a big thing for us is education and just, letting people know how important it is to get screened and to have a colonoscopy when you turn 45 and to go for your annual mammogram and to early detection is so important, because the sooner you catch it, the sooner you can begin treatment, and the higher chance you have of survival and living a long, full life. We've had a 33% drop in the cancer death rate since 1991. And
Wow.
It's saved more than 4 million lives during that time as a result of the services that we provide. So again, we can't thank you all enough for what you're doing to help in the fight against cancer.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. I know, as on any board of directors, it can kind of get cumbersome at times, and we might want to kill each other. But when we have a year-end event, like that, and we hear all the stories, and it really brings it all together and makes what we do worth every second of it. And it's that year-end event was pretty amazing. I know I'm speaking for Josh, but I know Josh and Kim thought it was amazing as well. So.
It was really cool. We had a great time.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Josh and Kim have any questions for you, but I know the reason, maybe they can think about something, but the reason you're here is, well, one of the reasons I should say, is to talk about, put this up, talk about this bottle that you all so graciously donated to us. Let me get this on full screen so everybody can see it. But this is so cool, and we've talked about it a little bit to our members, but I didn't know that that Jim Beam did anything like this. But you want to talk about the bottle and what it is?
Sure. So this is a special release of Little Book bourbon, and I think it's perfect timing to be talking about this here in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as we wrap up the month. And so Freddie No's wife, Kay, and two of his team members there at Beam Suntory were affected by breast cancer in the last 3 to 5 years. April Elston, Faith Bunnell, and then Kay No is Freddie's wife. And so they wanted to do something to not only raise awareness of breast cancer and support their family members and teammates, but also do something to help fight the disease. So this is a special release of Little Book. It's cask strength, so it's big and bold, and for good reason, because taking on breast cancer, in their words, takes a certain kind of strength that you won't find just anywhere. And so these individuals that were affected by the disease basically put this perfect blend together and wanted to really capture the spirit of the fight against breast cancer. And so they wanted an expression that represents the strength and the perseverance and the courage that it takes to take on breast cancer. So this is a special blend, and it's only made for the American Cancer Society. So you can't buy this on a shelf. And they donate these to us to use specifically for fundraising purposes at our distinguished events, our golf tournaments, that sort of thing. So what we have done with these in the past at our events is feature them as auction items, whether it's a golf tournament, a gala, a breast cancer walk in some cases. And these have gone for as much as $1,800 at our auctions. And so really just glad for you all to feature the bottle through Barrels for Hope and give your members a chance to snag one. Because at the end of the day, the money's going for a great cause. And we're so appreciative of Freddie and Kay and April and Faith for putting this thing together for us and helping us spread the word and increase awareness.
Yeah, and I'll tell you guys, just reading what it is. It's a blend of a 19-year Kentucky straight bourbon, a 13-year Kentucky straight bourbon, a 6-year Kentucky straight bourbon, a 5-year Kentucky straight rye, and a 5-year Kentucky straight bourbon finished in sherry casks. So it's gotta be the finished in sherry casks was the thing that kind of amazed me, because I've never seen. I don't know. Have they ever done anything finished in sherry?
I think they did a small component of one of the Little Book blends.
Okay.
Once upon a time, I think was finished in sherry, but I think it might have been a single malt that was part of that, like that weird experimental one they did. Okay. That blend sounds absolutely amazing though, and Beam does such a great job of blending like high age and young age to kind of bring all those beautiful attributes of the older stocks that they put in there, along with those brighter, fruitier notes that the younger stocks can have. I mean, that sounds absolutely awesome.
It's one of a kind, that's for sure. And then I don't know if you could see on the bottle, Freddie has signed it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is just especially cool. But yeah, you guys can see.
Yeah,
signed. I think it's like 115 proof or somewhere around there.
And, this is not a primary talking point of note whatsoever, but I'd be remiss not to call out that when Tom was speaking about this bottle, he said this is specifically for distinguished occasions and things like. I think Tom called us distinguished. So
That's
cheers,
right.
guys.
That's right.
That's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said about me.
Of course you are.
But no, Tom, we really appreciate this, man. This is,
yeah.
As a bunch of whiskey nerds who also have big hearts for the causes that we support, I couldn't think of a better fit for this, especially that, to your point, it is truly a one-of-a-kind thing. This is not something that, to Lance's point, I didn't even know Beam did anything like this. So it makes it incredibly cool.
Yeah, they brought this out. I want to say it was last year in the summer of 2023. That's when we first got our first bottle at our golf event here in Louisville, and we make sure to feature it and make it available to folks that are supporting our cause. And glad that you all are going to feature it and have a chance to raffle it off.
Yeah, for sure. It looks like we did have one question come in for you.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Mike Ackley said he'd love to see more research in taste and appetite abnormalities during cancer treatment. Personally, I see people I know fighting this. Is there resources for this?
Yeah, we have we have research taking place, not just at major cancer centers and institutions, but we've got always new things coming down the pike to help people in their battle with cancer, whether it's something like, I can remember my dad battling non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and all of a sudden nothing tasted the way it used to taste. And so it's, sometimes folks think about the medical side of it, but there are a lot of side effects that come with it as well, as I'm sure you all are aware. So, I'm happy to follow up if there's something specific that the gentleman would like to know about. But we've got a pretty comprehensive database on cancer.org, including the answers to probably thousands of questions that people have about cancer treatment, cancer screening, what to expect, that sort of thing. And then we have our 24/7 hotline if anyone has a specific question about their situation that one of the medical professionals can address.
Jason said, thanks for you and the team. ACS has been so helpful with a family member. I can't say thank you enough. That's awesome.
Well, thank you, Jason, for saying that. And we certainly send you the best for your family member in their fight.
Brian said, hearing Tom's direct stories and testaments to his mission is inspiring. Thankful that we get the opportunity to support such an amazing cause.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that.
Well, did you guys have anything else for Tom?
Not on this end. I just appreciate you being here, Tom, filling us in on all the details for being at the annual event. It was great meeting you guys, you and your wife, and look forward to doing more good together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Appreciate the partnership. Kim, I'll see you here in about 3 days, I guess. And
yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah, look forward to staying in touch with you guys. Thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, Tom, thanks. I know you're busy and you just got out of a work trip, so we appreciate you hopping on tonight and sharing with everybody. We're just so excited for this partnership. So
sure thing. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, take care, Tom.
Thank you.
Right. Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
What a guy. What a guy.
I love Tom. He's such a good guy.
Yes, he is.
Mike, I will send you Tom's information.
So
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll clue everybody in. So many of you guys know, I live in Nashville. Kim is in Nashville. Tom is in the suburbs of Nashville currently. We're all in the same city. Wish we could have done this together. But the event that they're having Saturday night that Kim and Mark are attending is going to be awesome. I wish I could be there at that as well. But American Cancer Society, just the work that they do and the heart that they have for everything, all the people that they're helping and just, it's, you can't, you can't talk to him and like hearing, to Brian's point, just hearing his direct stories, the personal reasons why the organization means so much to him. And I know that we all have people who have been affected by cancer in our lives. And so for some of us, that is us, for some of us, it's a direct loved one, a spouse or a parent or a sibling. It's really special to be partnered with them.
Yeah. And man, I didn't even know they were going to donate this bottle. He didn't say a word to me before the event. And we just came to the table and he kind of like nonchalantly handed me the bottle. Like, what is this? And they started telling me, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Well, how cool is that too, though? Like from a bourbon nerd standpoint, the fact that Beam does stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then it's out there like in this one-off run.
Yeah. Like I've said before, I need this out of my house before somebody comes over and accidentally opens it though.
Kim,
so with that being said, Kim, you want to talk about what we're going to do with a raffle and how we're going to get rid of this thing?
Yes. So Give 270, who is the group that supported us with the auction for the annual event, they also are supporting us with the raffle. So the site is live, but there's a slight glitch right now. So I'm working with the group to make sure that it's working, and we'll get the link out to you all hopefully tomorrow. And so they go through and they get the liquor permit or the license and everything we need to legally have this auction. And so through the site, which will be private and only available to folks with the password. So we'd like to keep that password within our membership group because we really want one of our members to get this bottle. There will be 100 tickets available. That's it. Tickets are $50 each, and we will draw for the winner on our live stream in November, which will be Wednesday, November 20th. So it's a little bit earlier in the month to avoid the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But Give 270, sorry, Lance. Give 270
no, go ahead, Kim.
Has been a really great partner for us. And so I'm very thankful. They do their live streams every Wednesday night, or they would have joined us tonight as well to talk a bit more about their organization. But I'm very thankful to have them as a partner.
Yeah. And I'm selfishly, I'm excited we're doing it this way because I won't get outbid with somebody with deep pockets. I can just buy a couple tickets, and if I don't win, it goes to charity. But if I do win, that'd be super exciting. To just have a shot at such a rare bottle is pretty cool.
100%.
So that's how we're going to handle that. Next, I wanted to tell you guys about last month. I wasn't able to tell you what auction bottles A1 Liquors had donated to us for our year-end auction. So last month's was Blanton's Booker's 2403, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof C924, and then this month's is Weller Full Proof, Yellowstone 101, and Eagle Rare. So as always, huge thank you to A1 for being so gracious and donating 3 bottles to us every month for our year-end raffle. I guess that could lead into Kim. If you want to, do we have any updates on the year-end event? Do you want to?
Yeah. So for anyone who missed I think it was the Knob Creek pick, Josh, that you were giving some updates, but the annual event will be in Nashville this year. So excited about that. It will be the weekend of July 26th. And so right now the plans are we'll have a pretty epic bottle share on Friday night. Really excited about that. And then the big event will be on Saturday night, where again, we'll have cocktails, dinner, presentations. We're going to try and make it a little more lively and party atmosphere in addition to all the emotional feelings. And then we're looking at some kind of optional hang activities that will be more kind of pay your way on Friday and or Saturday. Some more to come on that. But, the goal is to really narrow down what we're doing, get the ticket price little more affordable than last year, but really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And as we know more, we will certainly share more. Well, the one other thing, I think our target is to have tickets go on sale maybe December, probably more like January.
Yeah. So all exciting news. I can't wait. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah, I think the hotel that we're having, the host hotel that we're going to recommend everybody stay at, obviously there are tons of options in the area, but the host hotel, we're going to have a conference room for the bottle share. So we're clear. We'll have a ton of space. It'll be a great time. It's actually in the same parking lot as one of the absolute best liquor stores in the Middle Tennessee area. So you can just bounce next door and go bourbon hunting without having to walk even a city block. Like, it's right there. That's amazing. And then I don't want to oversell it, but I think Kim is underselling how good the Saturday night thing is going to be, because last year, if you were there, if you weren't there, this isn't really going to make much sense. But if you were there, you know that the Saturday night dinner thing, that was like a seated dinner, presentations on the stage, all that stuff. We're looking at expanding that, having a larger time window at the event. It's going to have it's BYOB, so people can actually bring bottles there. We can't just have open bottles floating around. Tennessee doesn't play that. They'll have to be checked with the bartender and then poured by the bartender to serve people. But it's going to be a little bit more, to Kim's point, a little less, I don't know if formal is the right word, Kim. Like, it's just going to be a little bit more loose.
We're still dressing up.
Yeah, we're gonna dress up. We're gonna dress up, but it's gonna be the atmosphere. The vibe is gonna be a little bit more mingly, a little bit more bounce around. We'll have some music going, and it's not gonna be like a 2 or 3 hour thing. Like, that's going to be where we're gonna have everything on Saturday night. We'll have music.
Yep.
There's a place where people can pop outside, a little porch area where people can go out and smoke cigars if you were so inclined. It's food on site. It's going to be everything. It's going to be like a whole afternoon and evening party situation in one spot. It's going to be awesome. I've seen the space. I think Kim sees the space Friday.
I'm going Friday. Yep.
You're going to see how awesome this, it's amazing. Top Dog asked, will there be Nashville hot chicken sandwiches? I don't know the answer to that yet.
The answer is probably no.
Okay. But one of my favorite hot chicken places is literally it's on a side street. Like, you just cross over that little side street. It's in a little strip mall right there. So if anybody needs to make a Nashville hot chicken run for some very good Nashville hot chicken, you're not even going to be gone from the party longer than it takes you to go to the bathroom. So,
well, and I'm very excited to try that place on Friday.
Yes. Yes. So,
and one other thing, I would like to do a quick shout out to Brian Ware, the bourbon engineer, who got us the hookup with the hotel. So he's been incredibly helpful, and through his relationships, we're getting a really great deal.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. So lots of exciting stuff on the year-end event. Well, I guess next I can talk about the barrel picks. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. If you haven't been on Patreon or in Discord, you should. But if you haven't been, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof did come in. I've got a couple weekends that I've got to be gone and traveling, but we're going to ship that on November 9th. So it'll come out. It depends when UPS comes by to pick all those up. So it'll be that next week at some point. There were just like 2 or 3 NBC 5-year picks that didn't go out. Those will go out at the same time. And then also, I wanted to just apologize to everybody about the KC, the Knob Creek short barrel. The way we usually do this is Narav prints up all the shipping labels and then gives them to Renee. and Renee checks them off her Excel sheet to make sure everybody that's supposed to be shipped is shipped. And then Renee hands those shipping labels to the guys who put them on a box, and then they get stacked. Somehow 10 of the labels either got thrown away or put in a box, or we don't know what happened to them, but it's very clear that's what happened, because if I look on my Excel sheet, the first 10 names are the first 10 people who didn't get a Knob Creek short barrel mailed to them. So those will also go out on the week of the 11th. And I'm sorry I can't do it quicker, but A1 is over an hour away from me. And I just, my weekends are full. So I'm the only one that can get down there and do it. So I'll have that done that week. Hopefully we will be all caught up after that week. So just to kind of give you guys an update of what's going on. It's our best shipping option to be able to get you guys bottles. So it is what it is, but I think we've done pretty good up to this point. That's the first time when we got done and we were like something's not right. We have a couple extra bottles and I'm not sure how. But we had checked them all off Renee's list. So it seemed like everything was fine. And anyway, I'm glad it was only 10 that we somehow missed and not 50. So, anyway, Josh, I know I'm supposed to kick it to you to talk about NBC.
Yeah. Well, now Kim and I can both talk about it because we have it. So
yeah.
Again, we mentioned this earlier, but if you signed up on the poll that you want, obviously the 5-year pick was included. The 8-year pick was a bonus barrel that we selected just because we were at NBC and I know the guys there, and I was like, hey, we'd love to taste some cool stuff. And so they let us taste a bunch of stuff. We ended up picking this bonus barrel for you guys. It's absolutely awesome. And we're going to taste it a little bit here. If you were on the pick and you remember anything about it, please feel free to comment, but we'll get into this here ourselves and see what we're working with. So, Kim, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm so
Lance?
jealous. You guys suck so bad right now.
Cry in the corner.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. So guys, if you are on Patreon and you opted into that poll and you haven't ordered your pick yet, you need to do it because we're going to make that go live after this stream. So once we release it to the public, there may be another 30 bottles and I'm sure those will get snatched up pretty quick. So
yeah, I'll say, guys, which by the way, I don't know if I can post a link in the chat or not, but Lance, if you can post the link in the chat
to sorry, I was reading a message. You talking about for the Nashville?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put the password in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, Mike, I see your comment. That would be amazing, except I have all the bottles, so that wouldn't work. But I appreciate you.
I mean, I have to do this every time. I got to make sure I got the actual password right. Yeah. All right. So this is the password for access. That way it doesn't go on NBC's site, because people know that if they see a Barrels for Hope pick on there, they know it's going to be crazy good. And then you've got to worry about people snapping it up. So it's password protected, but the password is charity bonus, capital C, capital B on both of those words. That'll get you in there. This is such a good pick. I don't even think on the pick that there was a close contender.
No, not for me. There wasn't.
Mm-mm.
And the other two samples we had were really good. But this
I know we tasted 4. So we tasted 4 5 years. And then was that all the 5 years that we tasted as far as the member? Because like this one was just a landslide, I think, for everybody. And then they started pulling out the 8 years for us to try. And as soon as we hit on this one, I was like, well, we don't really need to go any further.
Well, didn't Jared tell you on the 5 years? Like, we didn't even need to go through all this. I knew which barrel you guys were picking.
Yeah, James at NBC is the one that
James,
said
yeah.
that. Yeah, he said I could have bottled this and just put a sample in a beaker for you guys to pour. Like, I could already had this bottled. I knew this was going to be what you guys picked, because NBC has really nailed down my profile as far as bourbons go, and I was proxying the pick and setting everything up, and so they nailed it on the 5 years, and they nailed it on this 8 year as well. Which, by the way, I do have some of the 5 year poured, and I'm happy to speak to the differences of the two here in a minute. But right now, I just want to give the 8 year. It's just dues. But this is, Kim, how are you feeling about this?
It is so good. It is sweet. It's got a really nice oak, like sweet oakiness to it. The finish goes on and on. It's amazing. It not only tastes good, it's just a really nice experience.
Yeah, I actually made some notes. I was doing I wasn't necessarily blind ranking, but I was tasting a few things blind, just to not necessarily test myself, but just to get an unbiased review, right? Like, so I had our first Barrels for Hope from last year, this one right here, that so many are familiar with, which is just an absolute monster barrel. And I continue to still be able to pick it out on the nose. Like, I can't, it's impossible for me to not know what I'm drinking when I smell that thing. And then I tried our Barrels for Hope 8 year from this year. And then I tried Sunday Brunch, this was the runner up. So Sunday Brunch here, it ended up being a Stuff and Whiskey, Maumee Valley Whiskey Society collaborative pick, which was the runner up to this barrel. And we just had 3 of these on our charity auction in October earlier this month, go for between probably average price of $900. That's how much people love this. And that's what this pick reminds me of in some ways, mainly in the flavor profile that it has. Experience wise, the way I would liken it, I would say that is a little niche, because I'm going to call out some stuff. I'm not saying it tastes like this. I'm saying experience wise is what you're getting. With Sunday Brunch, it kind of comes across like something like Wild Turkey Generations, where it's a little bit more heavy handed in its approach. Whereas this 8 year comes across kind of like Russell's Single Rickhouse CNF, where it's way more balanced and it's just a beautifully, my first note was, wow, perfectly balanced, like Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse CNF. But then as you continue to sip it, it builds on itself in intensity and concentration. So rich and brown sugary with late stewed dark fruits on the finish. And then when I tasted it last night, when I got the bottle and opened it up, I even got a hint of maple syrup, which I'm not getting tonight, but that's what kind of made me think of Sunday Brunch. But this is a great barrel. Oh, Brian's trying to get me to drink more. He said, how does it compare to Blurred Lines and 24 Kelvin Magic? This is more, Kim, you've tasted all these as well.
I have.
This to me leans more into that like brown sugar, waffle, breakfasty type of flavor profile. I'm going to do hang out. I'll do 4 flights tonight.
Is it as the thing I loved about the first NBC pick was it was just this like sweet cigar shop to me that I freaking love. Yeah. Is it from what I remember on the pick, it had the same DNA as our first one, but I don't think it had as many of the cigar notes or sweet tobacco notes. But I could be wrong, because I had it in.
No, you're right. The first one we picked, and there was a lot of conversation last year when we picked the one that we picked versus the one we ended up picking that afternoon for Sunday Brunch. I've tasted a lot of NBC. I've never tasted a barrel quite like the one we picked last year with that just crazy. I smell it and it smells rum finish to me.
Yeah.
But and it is a beast. So this is last year's pick was 127 proof. This 8 year bonus pick is 117 proof. So we're looking at 10 proof points less. And I don't think it comes across with any less flavor. It comes across way more balance, though, which I think that's part of what I was speaking to with that.
Sure.
Like Wild Turkey Generations is a lot of people criticize Generations for being kind of hot and brash, which I like that personality in it, but then also like a really balanced pour, which, you know, CNF got a lot of praise for. And I feel like this is like Nashville Barrel Company versions of those two things. Like last year's pick had a ton of personality. This year's pick has so much balance and richness and sweetness. And
yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but the pick you were on another pick before this one, and you selected a barrel that didn't win the overall vote, and that barrel was in our flight, right? But then this barrel beat that barrel. Is that correct, or am I remembering that wrong?
No, we did wait, how did that go? So I'm trying to think of which year you're talking about. I feel like I've picked so many barrels at NBC. So the 8-year,
Josh, you did the Sonic Boom pick before this one.
Yeah, no, this was a different barrel. That was a different lot of barrels that they brought out.
Okay, I thought I heard Aaron say that, or maybe it was Bill, that you had picked one that didn't win the overall majority, and they put that in our flight. But we got a different 8-year barrel that you guys didn't get to try, and that's the one we picked. But I might.
Oh, you are right. Yeah. It wasn't the pick. Yeah. So the best one of the bunch from that pick, there was like 2 that were vying for contention. And then the one that didn't get picked, I was like, put that one in the afternoon. Like, let's go. Cause that could be an amazing pick. And then they actually blinded it on us. Like, and we tried that versus this one that we picked. And I was like, this is an open and shut case. Like, this is way better. It's got to be the one we tasted earlier. And they're like, nope, it's a new one. Yeah. They had a little trick up their sleeve on me. They like doing that stuff to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Josh, as I'm sipping on this more, it's bringing a vision of like baked, spiced fruit on like an oak plank rather than a cedar plank for fish. It's like an oak plank with fruit and spice.
Yeah, you're right. Like all those, I mean, it almost, I've said this before. I feel like it's a very obscure reference, and I'm hesitant to even say it but like I don't know what it's called, like the wassail. It's like at Christmas time, it smells like, it kind of has that like stewed fruit with baking spices in there. Yeah. Like you would smell in a kitchen at Christmas or something like that. And the balance, like if I drank something like this that was so incredibly balanced at 117 proof, I would think the second sip would kind of like, a lot of things, at least in my experience, they kind of tend to kind of come down to earth. Like you take the first sip and you're like, oh, that was really good. And you take the second sip and you're like, okay, maybe I was just not quite. And then you take a third sip and you're like, okay, it's coming down to earth. What this does is it builds on itself. So the first sip is really good. And you're like, oh man, that's so good. And then you take the second sip and you're like, oh, that was better than the first sip. And then the third sip's even better than the second sip. Like it gets richer and richer. Yeah. I love this pick.
It's so good.
Mike, you guys can buy additional bottles whenever you want, ma'am. Go for it.
And you know, I've
Corey, my conscience is clear.
I've picked a lot of barrels at NBC, and I've tried a lot of barrels at Nashville Barrel Company, far beyond what we picked. And when I'm picking something there, what I'm looking for is something that's presents as special, that's different than anything you can buy on the shelf. And I also want it to have somewhat of an it factor, you know? And to me, the way that this thing, the balance it has, the richness that builds each sip, and then the flavor profile, like the more I'm sipping it right now, as the glass is getting a little bit lower, it's starting to get into a little bit of that kind of like cherry, figgy, datey, tobacco barn leaf type of note. Not quite cigar shop like the first one, but it's starting to lean. It's starting to lean in. So, I mean, anybody that watches the Stuff and Whiskey channel has probably heard me tell this story, and they're probably like, "Oh boy, here we go again with the tobacco barns." But I worked in. My uncle was a tobacco farmer, and I worked in the fields and the barns for 2 summers when I was 14 to 15 years old. He has since passed from cancer. So RIP Uncle Mike. But he definitely was breaking all kinds of laws, working me that hard in those fields for as little money as he paid me. And that's the type of guy he was, and he would appreciate me calling him out on that. But it took me adulthood to realize that. But I've been in tobacco barns with that sweet tobacco, kind of dry tobacco smell with the old barn wood around you too.
Oh yeah.
And when I can get that, oh man, I love it.
Amy's right. Dark fired tobacco barn smell is heaven. It really is.
Oh man, growing up here in Nashville, like in the country of Tennessee, like north of town, you would just drive down the road during the summertime, and people would be firing tobacco barns, and I'd be riding around with the windows down and the music up, and you just smell it as you drove by, and it's so good.
Man, on a live stream 2 or 3 weeks ago, I sent all the guys our first Nashville Barrel Company pick, Russell's 15 and Elijah Craig's C923 in a double blind. They had no idea what they were drinking. And every one of them picked our Nashville Barrel Company over the others, and it wasn't even close. And
That's awesome.
I think on average, I also had them say what they'd pay for that bottle. And on average, they said, we averaged out the amounts, and it was like 183 a bottle. And I think Russell's 15, while it did good, like came in at like $90 a bottle in a double blind. It was so interesting to do that and see I just wanted to see where it landed, because really I couldn't lose. If it lost to those two, it's like no big deal. but it demolished them.
So I just took a sip of our pick from last year, and interestingly enough, it does have that cigar shot, but it goes a little bit more like a cherry Cavendish pipe tobacco. Like it goes a little bit brighter, whereas it's brighter and punchier, where this is a little bit more anchored and kind of a brown sugary, that, again, the tobacco barn stewed fruit type of profile. And it doesn't hit you as much in the palate and on the tongue as it does kind of with a concentration of sweetness on the back to like mid to back palate and the finish. So really nice.
David, that's the $1 million question, man.
Aging in Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, it, you wouldn't think it, but
oh yeah, Corey tasted it. Corey was in the blind. He was at my house. Yeah.
Well, dude, just shave off a few proof points, and then just skew the profile darker and a little bit, I wouldn't say sweeter, because they're just sweet in different ways, but it's, I mean, equally as, I think if you like last year's pick, you're going to really like this one. No.
Yeah, because when we were on the pick, like we tried the 5 years, which I loved, but I was wanting something of that same profile, same DNA. And when they brought out the 8 years, I was like, oh baby, now, yeah.
So I'm currently smelling our 5-year members pick, the Barrels for Hope that many of you guys just got. This one right here.
That too.
And I am speaking from very real and very current personal experience here, because my daughter, for better, for worse, or indifferent, she's got the sweet tooth that her dad has, and she always wants candy or sweets after every meal. So we got to try to find things that, man, I think we all are, right?
Bad.
So I have to find things that are acceptable for her to have after every meal. So we buy these little mini bags of Airheads, or we buy these, they're large bags of mini Airheads. They're not mini bags of Airheads, but they're large bags of little mini Airheads. So, it's a nice little after lunch or after dinner treat for her. I'm smelling our 5-year right now. and it smells exactly like the cherry Airhead.
Oh yeah, I could totally see that.
And I can't get anything else.
When we were there, I was not getting fruit on any of those 5 years. And then when we came home and I opened the bottle, I was like, there's fruit all over it. It was crazy.
So Top Dog says you can't beat last year's pick. I will say it is probably, other than one barrel, which I will not mention because it's unique in a bad way, but not one we picked, not anybody picked it that we know or anything like that. But I know who did pick it, and I can't believe it. And it's not a whiskey tuber. Don't worry about that. We got better taste than that. It was on another, you wouldn't know who they were. I could not believe they picked that barrel. It tasted like dirt. Our pick last year was as unique on the better end of that. So I've never tasted anything like that out of NBC. This one right here, though, it's in the vein of some of the barrel picks that have come out that we've selected. I feel like NBC has my profile nailed down so tight because I talk to those guys pretty often, and I try to set expectations as far as what we want out of the barrel picks that we're going to get if we go in there, whether it be for Barrels for Hope and you guys, whether it be for Stuff and Whiskey. I don't care. I just want the best barrels available at that point in time. And I feel like they deliver on that. And I've tasted a lot of other people's picks too. And there are some commonalities between whatever Nashville Barrel or Nashville Tennessee Aging does, the Kelvin barrels, all that. There's some kind of secret sauce that equates to, I don't know, maybe like a 60% commonality in all these things, but it's that other 40% that they differ that I've not really tasted. Like I feel like when we taste a pick that I've talked to the guys about and tell them what we're looking for, I feel like there's something very specific in there that I haven't tasted on any barrels that anybody else picks. Now I'm sure they're out there, but I haven't tasted them. So it is an interesting thing, and this is a very good barrel. And if you guys skip it, that's okay. It's just more for me, but I would recommend not skipping it.
Yeah. You guys are crazy if you skip it, to be honest with you. It's especially for what we're paying for all these bottles now and all these LEs, it destroys most everything. So yeah.
Now, Lance and Kim, you guys are both on this pick. I'm tasting the 5 year now, and the 5 year is freaking awesome. It is a wave of flavor. I can't believe that's Tennessee bourbon. Like, that's crazy.
It doesn't taste like Tennessee bourbon at all.
It does not. And it almost tastes like a really well blended, it's a single barrel from Tennessee, but it tastes kind of like a really well blended, kind of like not like necessarily like barrel, but like some of those Pursuit blends, like the 108 proof Pursuit United blends.
Yeah.
But you crank that up.
Yeah.
Because it's got so much more proof, so much more impact, so much more flavor than those have. But yeah.
I'm getting so much cherry on it tonight. I don't know if it's so much.
Yeah. That is a hallmark of those 5 year barrels. Is the 5 year Tennessee stuff is big cherry. And I'm getting that. I'm also getting a flash of heat. And that's to be expected at 5 years, 124 proof. I don't get that flash of heat on the 8 year. It's so much more balanced.
My palate's destroyed. I'm not getting any heat. It just tastes like straight cherries to me right now.
Well, the funny thing is I started with the 5 year tonight to warm my palate up, got no heat. And then I drank through some of these like 7 and 8 years things. And then I went back to the 5 year and I got heat.
Yeah, you got heat.
Yeah.
Jeff, I don't know on Green River. I think they come pretty quick. So I would, if you were going to guess, I would put that beginning of next year, probably, especially with the holidays coming up and everything. We'll probably ship that out in January if it comes then. And then Bardstown, we're going on, or a lot of guys are going, and ladies are going on that pick. When is that? Next week? Is that next week?
Monday.
Oh shoot, that's Monday. Yeah. So that, I don't know. I think Bardstown's pretty quick, right?
I think these are different barrels. So I think their idea is that they had this lot of barrels that were a very unique non-origin mash bill. Best I can tell, there was probably some type of contract distillation. Well, let me just preface what I'm about to say with, this is a complete guess on my part. Okay? I don't know why they have these non-origin barrels, but I do know that the mash bill is not a mash bill that you're just going to find anywhere. Like, it doesn't really exist on the market. So my guess is that they were contract distilled, and then as things go, somebody backed out 7 or 8 years later, and now they have these barrels that don't have a home, and they're like, well, they're not our origin mash bill. They were contract distilled for whomever. Now that company's out of business or broke or whatever, and now we have these barrels. We got to do something with them. Let's make them single barrels rather than blend them in, because they don't have their fusion series or anything like that. Like, there's no home for these barrels other than selling them outright. So the fact that we're going to get a very unique mash bill is very cool.
It is very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I barely care what it even tastes like. I can't wait to hear what you guys you guys find.
I have Googled this mash bill. I've asked people about it. I've looked everywhere. I can't find anything. And inevitably it's kind of very close to like a Brown-Forman mash bill. And everybody's like, oh, well, if you move like 2% of the rye and the barley, and I'm like, that's not how things work. Like, if you do a maker's pick, if you change one stave, the entire flavor profile changes. If you change 2% of a grain, that's, I mean, if you've ever been to a distillery and seen a mash tank like fermenting, they're massive. I mean, 2%'s a lot. So, we're going to get to taste some incredibly original stuff, and I cannot wait.
Not to mention, when you dump the same mash bill in barrels and put them on the same floor, they taste different. So you change any of those recipes, could be pretty wild. I think it's going to be cool. I'm excited.
Oh yeah. Real quick, I'll say, to put a button on this, I just wanted to compare the 8-year to the 5-year, because I've kind of spoken to the bonus 8-year pick in comparison to last year's pick and Sunday brunches, which is what reminded me so much of it. Compared to the 5-year is that kind of, it's all cherry. It's like kind of to Top Dog's point, he said, is it real cherries or Luden's cough drop cherries? And I'd say it skews more towards like a maraschino cherry, more like a cherry airhead. It doesn't have that Luden's thing going on with it. It's more of like a cherry airhead, candied cherry, and like maraschino cherry, bright cherry. There is an element of a cherry note in the pick here, but it's also, I mean, Kim, you can back me here or disagree if it's hitting your palate differently, but I'm getting all those darker stewed fruits, like the purple stuff. It's got that purple stuff.
Great.
Yeah. And it's overall just kind of darker, richer, more balanced. The age did a number on this thing. Like, it is a very good pour. I think probably a lot of people would call this, like a 10 to 12 year in a blind. Maybe even older, because it's got a lot of sweetness, but it's got so much balance too.
This would be a Matt Madness pour that would screw everybody up. You're not guessing Tennessee. You're probably not guessing the age.
I don't think you would on this 8-year either. Like, I'm trying to think, like, when I think of 10 to 12 years, I'm thinking of things like Henry McKenna, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. Those aren't this balanced, but then also they don't have that like building sweetness either. They kind of just are what they are. I don't feel like you get into this type of thing until you start getting into some older pours or some like special release products that have been blended or things like the first thing I wrote down was like, wow, this is, I try to make parallels between known products and NBC products. Like if NBC were to release their version of Russell's Rickhouse CNF, I feel like this would be that, because it's, to me, CNF is so balanced and just you get all the flavors across the whole spectrum that Wild Turkey has to offer, and it's just a beautiful pour. And I feel like that's what this 8-year is here. I mean, I've got a bottle over there in this cabinet that I call NBC Coy Hill. Like, it's their version of Coy Hill, because it literally grabs your tongue and dang near rips it out of your face and throws you around the room and kicks you right in the gut. And yeah, but it's a roller coaster ride. You know, I try to equate these things to that, but this to me is in that vein. I mean, I'll tell you, I bought a second bottle because you guys didn't buy them, and I'll buy a third if you don't buy them. So that's how much I believe in this one.
Andy said, "Are there
personal
extra ECBP picks? I was on the pick. I'm interested in an extra bottle, but we'll be on a cruise." Andy, no. You know, unfortunately, we are getting way too good at picking short barrels, and this is the lowest ECBP yield I've ever seen personally. We had just enough to get all our members and board members a bottle on this pick. So, there actually, Andy, there might be some extra ones. I can't remember what we voted on last night to do. If we don't have any shipping breakage, we will have some bottles that are able to go into the year-end event for auction purposes. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. And if you can't be there in person, you know, maybe try to find a proxy or something like that. But we don't have, I mean, I'm not going to say a high probability, but if UPS decides to go crazy with these bottles, I mean, we could have none left. So we just got to see how shipping goes. On a broader scope, can you speak not only to the bourbon market as a whole, but if $100 bottles will be something that people plan to ignore soon, other than LE or the like? Well, again, that's the $1 million question. It doesn't seem like people are ignoring $200 bottles yet, so I doubt they're going to ignore $100 bottles just yet. Now, for our purposes as a charity organization, you know, hopefully prices don't keep going up. But I can tell you from A1's perspective, from Narav's perspective, who buys bourbon all the time, stocks his shelves with bourbon. You know, he has cut his barrel buying down from, you know, 60 barrels a year to maybe 15 a year, just because it just does not move like it used to. Part of the reason is we all bought so much bourbon during COVID that we have enough to last us our entire lifetime. The other part of that is, as we worked through COVID and our palates developed, we started getting picky. And now I have so much that I don't need to drink cheap bourbon. When I reach for something, I'm reaching for nice bottles because I have so much of it. And that's what I buy. I don't have to buy so much bourbon anymore that I might buy an LE once a month or every other month. And so I mean, honestly, that's what I buy. As much as I hate bourbon prices and I hate that I'm funding the craziness, but I am, you know, I don't know how you guys feel, but that's kind of where I've been.
I want to let Kim answer first. I do want to say before Kim answers, this is my current favorite topic in the world of whiskey.
Good question, Chad.
I want to hear what Kim says, though.
If I ignore $100 bottles?
Yeah.
I think as a whole, he's saying...
Just like when the prices get so high, do you hit a point where you're like, you know what? I just only care about limited editions. I'm not going to pay attention to this, that, or the other.
So I don't ignore anything. I do tend to lean more towards single barrels and picks from groups or stores that I trust to get something different and interesting. There are very few LEs that, well, I say I would hunt. There are very few LEs that Mark would hunt. I never hunt, but he does. But it's rare. And frankly, I have my everyday on the shelf always that I go to as my comfort bourbon as well, that I keep in stock.
Yeah. I'm kind of with you. I mean, to me, the thing is, like, you can put something like I mean, to the point I was making earlier, like the Russell's Reserve Single Rickhouse CNF, or like a Wild Turkey Master's Keep Triumph, or any of these special, Russell's 15. I've only named 3 Wild Turkey products. Four Roses LE. You guys see where my brain's at. Like a Four Roses LE. If we saw that sitting on the shelf in front of us, or a Michter's 10 Bourbon and Rye, perfect example. Michter's 10 Bourbon and Rye. If you saw that on the shelf in front of you, we're all buying it. This is all better than all of that. Like, this 8-year pick, this Barrels for Hope pick, this 8-year bonus barrel would absolutely just stomp a Michter's 10 bourbon. And I love Michter's 10 bourbon. So I say that in the most respectful sense possible. To that point, I'm very much like Kim. To me, there's like a few shelf staple products that I could be fine. Like, let's just hypothetically say we don't have Barrels for Hope. Aaron and I don't have a YouTube channel. I'm just a regular consumer without any of this. I don't need to buy anything to review, whatever. I'll have a few staples, Rare Breed or Russell's Picks, some cocktail mixers, whatever, Early Times Bottle and Bond. And then I will splurge on a few LEs throughout the year if I can get my hands on them by any means necessary. And everything else I'm going to be spending my money on is single barrel picks that are chosen by palates that I align with. Because to me, they're the most unique things. I mean, this Barrels for Hope, this 8-year, I'm not just saying this, there's only 132 of these that are out there, I know that when I'm drinking that, there's 40,000 George T. Staggs every year that are released. There's 16 to 18,000 Four Roses small batches that are released. I'm not saying go crazy and buy every single barrel. I don't go to Total Wine and just grab every single barrel that they release because it's from a distillery that I like. I need to know who's picking it. I want to know why they're picking it. I want to know my palate aligns with their palate. And if I can line all those metrics up, then I feel like I am spending my money wisely, and I'm going to get something that is going to be a little bit of, for, lack of better terms, lightning in a bottle. You only get that thing from that person who picked it or group that picked it. You only get it once.
Yeah. I'll add something to that because I want to clarify. I was thinking about it as you guys were talking, and the first 3/4 of the year, I probably bought 98% single barrels, like Kim was saying. The last quarter of the year, I've probably bought 90% LEs. And I'm looking at like what's in my top of the year running and what I'm going to send to the guys. And right now it's Jack 12, OGD 16, Russell's 15, ECB BP, B524, Booker's Reserve, Disco 12. Those are all LEs that mostly have just been released in the fall. So I think it depends what time of year, but the beginning up until 2 months ago, I honestly didn't know what I was going to have in my bourbon of the year running because it was all single barrels.
Now check this out, Lance. You haven't tasted the new 8-year pick, but I know you love last year's Barrels for Hope pick.
One of my favorite top 5 bottles ever.
That's what I'm saying. How many of those LEs that you just mentioned would our pick from last year beat in a blind tasting?
Well, I'll tell you in December, because our Barrels for Hope NBC pick will be in the blind against all those LEs just to see where it falls.
Oh, snap.
And we'll have probably 6 Patreon members on that'll be tasting blind. So yeah, it'll be fun to see where it lands. But if the last stream was any indication, it's going to beat most of those.
Yeah. You know, and what it comes down to me is, again, it's not just any single barrel. It has to be, and maybe I'm coming at this from a different angle. Like, I can remember a time over on the Stuff and Whiskey side where I said, I'm on tape. There's footage of me saying we will never do barrel picks, which was one of the silliest things for me to ever say, because barrel picks were always my favorite thing about whiskey, period. So why in the world would we not do our own where we're tasting it and qualifying it? But to me, when I go in and pick a barrel, like this 8-year Barrels for Hope pick, or the 5-year Barrels for Hope pick, or last year's 7-year, the Bardstown pick that we're going to be doing on Monday morning, these are the types of things where when I'm tasting these barrels, it's not even just like selecting something based on personal preference as much as it is. I mean, there's a part of that is personal preference, but I think, and I would be curious to see, in the chat, Chad asked this question, and I would be curious to see if you guys agree with this on screen and in chat. There are a lot of bottles that just sit on the shelf. I mean, your rare breeds, your 1920s, your, whatever, early times bottle and bonds, everything from Buffalo Trace all the way through all the major distilleries, craft stuff. To me, the thing that you can't just go out and buy on the shelf is that really rich, flavorful, concentrated experience. There is a level where you tick up, and a lot of the limited editions have that, and some don't, and shame on them for that. But a lot of those limited editions have that really concentrated flavor experience, and the shelf stuff doesn't have that in comparison. And to me, I'm looking for that special experience, that it factor in a pick. So to me, I got to have that. Otherwise, I'm not picking it unless that's not available in the pick that I'm part of. And then at that case, it's like, okay, well, I have to communicate what it is that you're getting. I think this 8-year Barrels for Hope absolutely has that. It's got that it factor.
Yeah, it does.
But, that's why the single barrels to me matter so much, because I want somebody to tell me why I should care rather than just a bottle sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, for sure. Chad said, thanks for your insights. The single barrel aspect of things has to be the future. We will always want the one-off, unique, vetted, and highest quality bourbons. The problem is, Chad, is that if companies appease bourbon nerds, they'll go bankrupt. Like we're not driving the market. We might drive people to certain brands, but we are so niche. You look at the top bourbon channels, and they have 100,000 viewers, which is, I mean, most of these YouTube channels have 1 million, and they're small, right? So we are so niche, and bourbon, I don't think a lot of bourbon companies really care what us bourbon nerds think. They'd go out of business trying to sell cash strength concentrated bourbons as opposed to 80 proof mixers that you sell, hundreds of thousands of cases in a bar every year. So, it honestly worries me because I wish that were the case. I wish that the market would see that, but talking to Narav, I talk to Narav weekly about the state of bourbon, and he has a harder time buying single barrels and risking putting his money towards single barrels, especially as the market has definitely gone down. Like, I'm finding bottles on the shelves that I can't even believe I'm finding now. Like I mentioned on the last pick, I found Weller Full Proof on the shelf. I'm regularly seeing Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof Rye. I mean, that's one of the greatest $65 bottles. I can go find that on the shelf anytime I want now.
The greatest $65 bottle.
It might be. So yeah, I don't know. I wish you were right, Chad, but I just don't know if stores are going to see it the way we see it, and the big distilleries are going to see it the way we see it. So,
well, I will say that the single barrel programs at all these distilleries did exist before the major bourbon boom of the last, 4 years or so. Like this was always a thing, and it was a thing before the hype, and I think it'll be a thing after the hype. And I think what you're going to find is you're going to find people who care about the unique experience that single barrels offer. You're going to find people who care about selecting them and people who care about buying them, or in our case, our organization that use them for charitable efforts, and you guys for supporting and being a part of all of it. That's going to exist. And then you're going to see the people that were in it all these years because it was the hot thing and they were just seeking to capitalize on it. And they're going to fall by the wayside, or it's going to be a strictly business decision. Like Narav's a businessman. If his store will support 60 picks a year, he's going to do 60 picks a year. If it'll only support 16, he'll do 16. That's just smart business,
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have your bandwagoners, you're going to have your guys who are business savvy, and then you're going to have your enthusiast group that's going to just continue to drive things kind of in a behind the scenes way. I don't think we're going to Lance's point, we're not going to move the needle for any of these distilleries at all on what we're doing. But I think for at least the foreseeable future, they're going to keep on having these single barrel programs, and we're going to keep getting stuff. And, it might make it easier for us to get some stuff.
Yeah. And my hope is that, some of those distilleries really, I think a lot of them do appreciate the art of distilling and blending, and don't want to see that totally fall to the wayside and just do 80 proof, mixers. I hope they keep the artistry in the craft for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Daniel's is a perfect example. I mean, they literally do not have to make anything other than Old Number 7, and they're fine for the rest of their lives. But look at all the really cool stuff they're doing for the very, very niche enthusiast community.
God, they are killing it, man. I just had an A1 Jack Daniel's single barrel proof. I've had a ton of those picks, and the last one I had just knocked my socks off, man. They just keep getting better and better.
Yep, I think so. Maybe we'll get us the Jack Daniel's Barrels for Hope pick. That would be very cool.
That'd be
That's
awesome.
a dream. Yeah, that is a dream. I think we probably can. That's definitely one I've talked to Narav about, and hopefully on his radar next year for us. So
hey, there we go. Preferably rye. And
rye
everybody that's a bourbon guy, don't worry about it. The rye's better than the bourbon or the Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
So as we wrap this down, guys, if you have any questions that you want us to answer real quick, drop them in the chat. But yeah, I mean, we got a really good month ahead. Just as a reminder, the 8-year bonus Barrels for Hope is available. You're going to see information, links, all that stuff as far as the little book. Lance, you got that bottle handy you can show?
Yeah.
That thing right there, you guys. Be on the lookout for that. We'll have annual event information. And if you stuck around this long, we are working on the Patreon Exodus. This was a question that I saw pop up in chat earlier. Jeff Pena asked it. Let me find it here. He said, along those lines, is there any appetite for people to increase their monthly subscription once we move to QuickBooks to help offset the rising prices for barrels? So, fantastic question. Actually, switching to QuickBooks will cut down on Patreon percentage fees, which will let you guys pay the same amount, but net us almost $10,000 more annually for charity. So we won't have to increase dues at all at that point. So, and it's going to have a huge net benefit, a net positive benefit for charity purposes. We're working on that behind the scenes. We're working on solutions. We are not website people. If you are a website person and you're watching this, email me at josh@barrelsforhope.com and copy Lance at barrelsforhope.com on that as well, so we can get in a conversation about this. We're working on some solutions where members can manage their memberships. I
think we've kind of pushed that back to maybe beginning of the year.
Yeah,
as
we're
a target.
looking at that in January. But we want people to be able to sign up easily, manage their subscriptions easily, and then also cut down on some of the Patreon fees. So that's what we're looking at.
Lance and Josh, can we see you guys go head to head on a Barrels for Hope pick your favorite bottle blind? Is he saying do all Barrels for Hope bottles blind? I think that's what he's
I
saying.
think I feel like Lance and I would pick the same top bottle.
I 100% know which bottle I would pick, and I wouldn't be able to I would know that bottle any blind you give it to me in. I think it stands out so much.
All right, top dog's just trying to get us trashed. He said all of them.
Oh, yeah, I think he is.
I think the Four Roses would be up there as well.
Four Roses. It would be interesting to see what would be like top 3 behind the NBC pick.
I feel like Lance's top 3 would be the Barrels for Hope, NBC, the Elijah Craig Founders, probably the Four Roses.
I think it would be there, or the Elijah Craig short.
Yeah, that was my other guess, the Elijah Craig short. For me, I mean, when I think about Barrels for Hope picks, I immediately think about the NBC year 1 and the Four Roses. Those are just immediately where I go. That third one would be really tricky.
When you did a blind with a couple, and what surprised me was how high you picked Still Austin. Not that Still Austin's bad. Still Austin's great, but you picked that really high.
I did. I said it was beautiful whiskey.
It is too.
So fun fact, I sent Josh a blind of a bunch of Kentucky bourbon and a Still Austin. And he put the Still Austin first.
He loves that.
I like Still Austin does good work, y'all.
They do.
Still Austin does really good work.
That would be fun to do, though, for us all of us, honestly, to do a blind and figure out how we rank them.
Yeah, especially now that we've got some more stuff coming down the pipeline as well, which is a great plug too for the November, the Angel Share in November, which will be on the 20th, the Thursday before Thanksgiving.
Wednesday.
The 20th, the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, not directly before, the week before. That's where we're going to do the Bookers, or the Little Book raffle drawing. Everybody should have their 5-year Barrels for Hope by then. Most of you probably have it now. Everybody who's ordering the 8-year should have it by then. Everybody will have the Knob Creek Short Barrel, and everybody will have the new Elijah Craig barrel proof pick from the Bernheim warehouse, which is going to be very cool. So we're going to have 4 new picks that we have not tasted collectively together as a group. And I will be doing those blind, and I would encourage you to do the same. It'll be a lot of fun. So look forward to that on that live stream.
Brian said the KC short barrel sneaky good. It is, but I think the new one we picked might even be better. Honestly, you guys are going to be shocked unless we picked another damn short barrel. I told if you guys watched that live stream, we did pick the highest floor and a pretty high. There's no telling. It's and it was the highest proof. So we'll see.
Fingers crossed, y'all. Fingers crossed. We're doing our best. Barrel picking is like I don't know. I about got real country there. Barrel picking is like trying to shoot a squirrel blindfolded. It's not a thing.
No, it's not.
No.
Jason Cruitt just sent us an email, Josh, about help with the website. So that was quick. Awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Jason's my guy. We'll talk.
All right, cool. Awesome, man. Cool. Well, I think that's all we got, guys. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. We had a lot of fun stuff. It was fun to have Tom on and talk about ACS and the bottle and all the fun stuff we've got coming down the pipeline for you guys. Lots of exciting stuff as we end the year.
Be on the lookout for the link for raffle tickets.
Yep. I think once Kim lets me know that that's up and running, I'll post that in Patreon and on Discord probably tomorrow, I would bet. So
And again, there's only 100 available, and there's
Yep.
no limit on the tickets you buy. So, I mean, you can wait if you want, but if you want to get an opportunity, I would not wait. I would get right on it. I'm going to get right on it. I want that bottle.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Whoever wins it needs to send me a sample at least, by the way.
Yeah, true that. Yeah.
All right, with that, guys, we'll end the stream. We love you guys very much. Thanks for being a part of this. It's a blast. It's fun to help a lot of people and drink some good bourbon along the way. So cheers, everybody.